Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Today I want to discuss, the topic is the oneness of all life. Prayer. Gabastine Shri Padmaha Pushkaraha Pushpadharana Babur Vibhu Sarva Sukshmat Charitram Chaiva Pathyasi. The absolute truth is one. The institution has drawn on many thinkers worldwide who have sought first principles, the foundational reality underlying all things. Moreover, the absolute oneness is stressed repeatedly in the Upanishads, metaphysical masterpieces within the Vedic library. But what does this oneness mean? Monistic thinkers equate it with non-differentiation. They hold that reality features no differentiation at all. The differentiation between you and me is an illusion, as is the differentiation between us and God. Subjects that perceive and objects that are perceived are all illusions. A non-differentiated stream of consciousness alone exists. However, this conception is profoundly impoverishing. It strips existence of its greatest driving force, love. We all long to love and be loved. Acknowledging the foundational reality of love, Gita wisdom offers a more nuanced and enriching revelation of oneness. Not the dissolution of all individuality, but its loving harmonization. The Bhagavad Gita's 6th chapter describes progressively higher states of spiritual realization, culminating in vision of all attractive personal absolute Krishna. The more spiritually evolved souls see Krishna in everything and everything in Krishna. Thus, they see everything connected, not everything merged. By seeing everything, that everything derives its attractiveness from Him. Realizing this oneness, they dedicate themselves to Him with both their head and heart. Illusion arises not from the perception of duality, but from the perception of disconnectedness of all of existence, and connects the soul with the whole in an eternal bond of ecstatic love. Indeed, pure love for Krishna with the resulting eternal union comprises the ultimate reality beyond all illusion. The magic of oneness. The Bhagavad Gita invites you to partake of the power of devotion called bhakti. Modern life magnifies the boundaries that keep you in a state of separateness. Vedanta draws you to experience a vitality greater than your own. It takes you from a deeply entrenched position of antagonism to one of concern, understanding, and respect. With Vedanta, you move from a feeling of isolation to communication with the divine. Then what happens? You become God. Bhakti is not praying for this you are unwilling to work for. It is an acknowledgement of nature's bounty. Bhakti is not Murti Puja, idol worship. It is adoration of the Murtis created by God. Bhakti is not a denouncement of those who follow other faiths. It is acceptance of the diversity of viewpoints that converge to realization. Bhakti is not assertion of your will against God's. It is submission to God's will. Bhakti is not exclusive allegiance to a particular deity or prophet. It is inclusive love for all beings. In an orchestra, you see the power of synergy. In the warm up session, each artist practices his piece separately. The result is cacophony, not symphony. When the show begins, the conductor who conducts the music draws a sweet melody from the same musicians. What was noise becomes exquisite music. Similarly, we are all players in the orchestra of life. Align with divine conductor and you bring out the melody of life. Magic of oneness. You admire yourself in different mirrors because you see all images as reflections of yourself only. Similarly, in the mirror of life, all beings are reflections to your very own self. A devotee admires himself in all beings. He exults in their achievements, shares in their sorrow. Isolation, communication, communion. When you are body centric, you see maximum differences. You feel amicable toward others. As you identify with the mind, you begin to see unison within the family. When you identify with your intellect, you feel harmonious with a much larger group. Finally, when you align with the spirit of, you see all beings as a part of you, not apart from you. You see divinity. For this, love heralds success. Love fosters understanding. A mother instinctively knows what her infant child needs, even without verbal communication, isn't it? A doctor who feels for his patients develops the knack of correctly diagnosing the diseases. A marketer with genuine concern for his customer knows exactly what the customer needs. Thus, love makes for success. Team spirit. Love enables you to zero in the good and gloss over the bad. When you operate from goodness, you contact the good in others. You create a wonderful team of people, all of whom give to their best. Devotion leads to realization. Desire and ego block your vision of reality, bind you to the world of finitude and limitation. When you align with the Lord, you get purified of both the desire and ego. Your attention shifts from thought of self to thought of God. God takes precedence over the individuality. With constant focus on the Lord, you become meditative. What happens? Meditation removes the last traces of desire and you merge with God. Arjuna's dilemma. Arjuna is not sure which path to follow, the path of devotion or path of knowledge, whether to worship a form or formless reality. The chapter begins with Arjuna's query to Krishna, which of the two is superior? Krishna answers, both paths lead to realization. However, form worship is best suited for emotional people like Arjuna, while intellectuals take to formless worship, Nirguna Puja. The vision of oneness. In general, developing a sense of oneness is considered to be the hallmark of high thinking. That is called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Is the maxim for our living as laid out by our ancestors. While we were all young and growing, our elders did talk about this idea of oneness. They taught us how to share what we have with others around and help others when they were in difficulty. This was an idea which made one feel good, but it was not clear what exactly this concerns meant. Over time, as we grew older, this faded into background only to be replaced by new values to face a fierce competition. For many of us, especially in big cities, the dog eat the dog culture seems to govern our daily living. What then is this ado about oneness? This question is especially important since our entire Vedantic discussion promotes the concept of oneness. In fact, the Advaita philosophy proclaims that Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara are nothing but one and the same. Variety is the essence of divinity. How? The wonderful aspect of the divine creation is that there is huge variety in the flora and the fauna. According to 2011 census, 8,704,000 species share this planet, give or take 1.3 million. However, bacteria and other simple organisms were excluded from the count. The study also reported that 86% of all land dwelling species and 91% in the water have yet to be discovered and catalogued by science. Therefore, the variety that we know of, see, and experience in our daily life is nothing but the tip of the iceberg. Even if we take one called mankind, we find there are about 7 billion people in the world, and each one of them is different from others. They speak different languages, share different cultural practices, and live in different ways. Cannot be judged to oneness. Even within a family, we find siblings are different from one another in terms of physical appearance, psychological makeup, and priorities and preferences in their life. The perspective of oneness. Lord Krishna explains that the learned and the men of wisdom view many different variations that they see around them with the vision of oneness. Since it is difficult to enumerate the entire list, he suggests a few examples. For example, Lord Krishna says that men of wisdom see in persons with humility endowed on them on account of the knowledge that they have received. In a Brahma Mahadevan is a professor at the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. The truly learned with the eyes of divine knowledge see with equal vision whether a Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Let us first clarify certain aspects about this idea oneness. We should first know where this concept will apply and where it will not. For example, we cannot apply the vision of oneness to a kilogram of rice and kilogram of stone and decided to cook on kg of stone for lunch. Is it? Similarly, we cannot come to the conclusion that the lowest employee in an organization, such as dispatch clerk, and a senior executive, such as the senior executive, vice president, are one. Armed with this understanding, we cannot reverse their roles, entitlements, or privileges. In both these cases, it is not practical and at best confusing, meaningless, and chaotic. We are all operate in two worlds. One is a world of Vyavahara or thick of activities, and the other world of Ashraya or deep contemplation and reflection. The above examples show that the notion of oneness does not apply to the world of Vyavahara. Here, the governing principles come from a set of dharmas, which are nothing but a codified set of do's and don'ts, developed over time in order to sustainably and ethically manage the activities in the world. On the other hand, the notion of oneness is very much the subject of interest and relevance in the world of Ashraya. Let us take the example of the dispatch clerk. Assume that he approached the senior manager and asked for an out of the turn increase in compensation or a special waiver or some financial assistance in order to face a difficult situation at the domestic front. The set of dharmas governing this world of Vyavahara may prevent the senior manager from sanctioning the request for financial help, because it may point to a number of such requests immediately, and therefore unsustainability of this way of addressing the problem. The manager may have to turn down the request. However, at the end of the day, when he steps out of the office, he may encounter the same person with the same request at a personal level. Now, the senior officer is perfectly allowed to bring in the vision of oneness, partake his suffering, and choose to help him with a personal loan. This is a choice that will come only out of the vision of oneness. This example suggests that the vision of oneness enables a person to identify with the life situations and issues that others go through and mentally respond to it in the most appropriate manner. Viewed in this manner, the vision of oneness has some practical implications to every one of us in our life. A person endowed with oneness will develop empathy as opposed to sympathy towards others and their life situations. Even viewed from the management perspective, an empathetic person has greater prosperity to be a good manager at his or her interpersonal relationships are likely to be much superior, genuine, and even gentle. More importantly, the vision of oneness is a very important tool for self management. For a person with a good internal vision of oneness, life cannot throw defeats and sorrows. At most, it can be of surprises, learning, and reflection. The possibility of defeats exists only when a person sees somebody other than himself or herself. The joy and the goodness emanating from such a person can become contagious. The vision of the oneness may, at the outset, look like an idea to be practiced with fellow human beings. For a mature person, even with a little bit of personal experience of this idea, it will extend to fellow living beings and later to the non living aspects of the ecosystem. For such persons, values such as ahimsa will be natural and instinctive response to unfolding life situations. Aggression, exploitation of natural resources, marginalization of underprivileged and disadvantaged classes of this society, unleashing terror and cruelty to animals and plants are all because of lack of oneness in the perspective. Therefore, vision of oneness will be great catalyst to develop a sustainable society and promote ecological sustenance. There will be great understanding of the complex interrelationships and mutual dependence between man and animals, living beings and non living beings, entities, and man and the ecosystem at large. Let us focus on selfless duty. How? Both the beginning and end of Gita are about Lord Krishna exhorting Arjuna to do his duty. Performing one's duty selflessly and in accordance with dharma is just perhaps the most salient message of the Gita. Dharma is the universal law which holds all life together in unity. Each being must to do its part in the grand scheme in things. Any code of life based on the satisfaction of mere desire leads to destruction. Therefore, selfless duty that goes beyond selfish motives and is for greater good is necessary. At the same time, Gita encourages that action should be done with dispassion and without worrying about the outcomes. Performance of one's duty is, in all aspects or respects, better than inaction. We have to do our duty and leave the outcome to the will of God. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Meaning of life. While Gita's governing message is a call to action, it recommends we understand the meaning of life so it can guide us to right action. Nature of self. Starting point is to understand the nature of ourself. Our being has two aspects: the life, spirit, or the soul, that is eternal and indestructible, and the physical existence, that is transient and perishable. Life comes to be from this union of body and soul. The soul goes through cycles of life and death and takes on new physical forms as if it is wearing and shedding clothes. Vasamsi jirnani hyata vihaya. Like that. Law of karma. The cycle of life and death that our eternal self goes through implies that the results of our current actions reflect is in not just this life but also in future lives. Equally, our situation in current life is because of latent impressions from actions of past life. When the soul departs from the body after death, it takes with a load of character or gunas by the activities so far gone through. This principle is key to understanding the apparent uncertainties of life and the lack of perfect correlation between input and output. At the same time, this principle of cause and effect teaches us that we ourselves are responsible for what happens to us, whether or not we understand how. It follows that we can change what happens to us by changing ourselves. We can take our destiny into our own hands. Nature of God. God is a universal force. Is it? The Brahman, that is the basis of our all creation and the continuous cycle of life. It is without beginning or end. It is infinite, indivisible reality underlying all life. It is the essence of all existence. It is the life spirit behind all life forces. This is beautifully captured by the word of Tattvamasi. Atman is Brahman, the self in which person is not different from Godhead. Maya or illusion. The underlying unity of existence is distorted by Maya or illusion. In general use, the word Maya means a kind of magic. In the Gita, Maya becomes a creative power of the Godhead that makes unity appear as a world of innumerable separate things. It is not that the phenomenal world of an illusion or unreal. Finally, our higher purpose. It is to have union with God, our source and the ultimate reality. It is to realize the oneness between God and self. When that happens, we get liberated from the continuous cycle of deed and consequence of life and death. श्रीकांताय कल्याणनिधे निधेद्रां श्रीवेङ्कटनिवासाय श्रीनिवासाय मङ्गलं मङ्गलाशासनप्रैर्मदाचार्यपुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्यैः सत्कृतायास्तु मङ्गलम्.